Hi everybody, I'm Alyce-Kay Ruckelshaus from Threshold of Hineni, and I'm here to talk about ways that God has blessed me and how he's taken care of me since my husband died. And I'm just working on a project here while I'm talking to you. It's not anything important, it's just so that I can keep working and getting things done. Okay, so another way that God has taken care of me has been through Facebook. And I know people complain about Facebook and talk about how bad it is. And there are a lot of bad things about it. But it's a tool, you guys. It's just like anything else. You can't blame forks for people getting fat, you know. That's just a tool that you use to get fat, but you can also use it to nourish yourself. Okay, and so Facebook can be really good for you, or it can be really bad. And for me, it was one of the things that really got me through this, because seriously, I would have been completely alone if it hadn't been for Facebook, because most of my friends these days are on Facebook. I had been, before we moved here, well, when I lived here before, I had a lot of friends. But then when we moved back, Bill and I pretty much stuck to ourselves. He didn't as much as I did. Like, he went and got a job at Walmart, partly because we did need some money, but partly because he just needed more of a social outlet. But I had been through a few traumas fairly recently, and I just had a really hard time being around people. And even going to church, I'd have panic attacks to go to church and stuff, which I was having that even before these particular traumas. And so I just, we just stayed home, and I didn't really get in touch that much with my friends who live here. I did on Facebook, like I had been in touch with them when I lived in Minnesota and in Maryland, but I didn't go and do things with people or anything, except for my best friend Kathleen, and a couple times with my friend Stephanie. But I think that's pretty much it. And so I really didn't have friendships to speak of, and it wasn't other people's fault, it was mine. But when Bill died, so if it hadn't been for Facebook, on Facebook, the night that he died, I didn't want to tell my friends yet, because I knew, there's an order that you have to tell people in, because if you don't, then people get upset that they found out from someone else. So you have to be careful about who you talk to, and it's hard to think through that stuff when you've just lost somebody, but you kind of know it instinctively. So I knew the first couple of people I needed to get a hold of were his granddaughter and his sister. And I mean, I got a hold of my mom and my best friend because I needed them. But his granddaughter, he was really close to, and I'm really close to her too. And his sister in Arizona. And so I called both of them that night. Well, then and I didn't call them right away. I mean, it was like a few hours, I think it was like 4 hours or so before I called them, because I just was beside myself, when I found out that he was killed. Obviously, I was just really falling apart. And I knew that I needed to call those two right away, because it was like, they needed to know, and I didn't want to put that off or anything. So I called them, and I didn't want to tell any of my friends yet. So I'm on a forum for my work of Christian teachers, and we share prayer requests on there. So I got on there and I told them. So even though, I mean, some of those ladies I am pretty close to, but I've never met them or anything. So it's not like I am close friends with them, but not in person. And a bunch of the people that I told, I didn't even know at all on that forum. But it was a safe place that I knew none of them knew any of the people, that I still needed to tell. And so the word wasn't going to get out to people until I was ready to tell them. Does that make sense? I know that sounds so weird, but I think you know what I mean. Anyway, and I knew that those ladies on our Christian Teachers Forum, that they would pray. And that was the main thing, was right then, I really, really needed prayer. So I told people on there, and, again, if it hadn't been for Facebook, I would not have had that forum and those friends to call on to pray for me. And there were 500 or 600 responses from women that they were praying for me, or, nice things that they were saying, comfort type stuff and everything, which was just really, really neat. I'm not even sure that I read all of them because there were so many. And so I'm going to have to go back and sometime and just like read all of those. But so that was just like really comforting, and I felt really loved, and that helped. And then the other thing is that it helped me because I was able to share on Facebook, and my friends, people who had been my friends for years and years and years, and who I knew in person, but we're keeping in touch through Facebook, and a lot of people that I've only met through Facebook, but who are my very, very dear friends. Those people have been there for me through Facebook for the last 11 months. It's almost 12 months. The day I'm recording this right now is like the 23rd, I think. 23rd or 24th. This is 22nd. It's the 22nd of June. And he was killed on July 14th. So it's a little bit more than 11 months. And those people have been there for me, and they have not said, you need to get yourself out of this. You need to start feeling better or anything. In fact, a lot of times they have said to me, when I've said, I feel like this is just taking so long for me to get better and stuff, and they're all, everybody has a different way of grieving, and it takes different people different amounts of time. And that's really, really true, you guys. And I cannot stress how important that is, because we're all different. We all have a completely different emotional makeup. We've all been through completely different experiences in our life that are going to influence how we take a loss. And our faith is going to influence that, but not necessarily, it's not like it's bad to grieve or something like that. But our faith is going to influence that. And what we've been through before, and how we grew up, and what we've been taught about grieving, and how close we were to that person. And even if you're super close to a person, it's different from somebody else that might be super close to a different person. It's like Bill's and my marriage was different from anybody else's marriage, just as your marriage is completely different from anybody else's marriage. I'm not sure how to get that off. Okay, this one's a little awkward. Let's see if I can get it. So it's like everybody grieves differently, and you have to be, it's really, really important that you're patient with someone who's grieving. If you can't be patient with them, please go somewhere else. Just, don't be saying your stuff to them. I did have one person, it was kind of weird. I had one person who said that I needed to stop being so selfish and thinking of myself, and that when I can do that I would feel better. And I mean, it was kind of harsh. It was weird. It was somebody I hadn't talked to or heard from in years, and they just kind of jumped in. They didn't even know what was going on or anything. So that was just weird. And I wasn't hurt by it or offended or anything. I mean, I think that it would be very easy to be offended. I think it probably would have been appropriate, but I wasn't. It was just kind of like, that's really weird. And so I just kind of let it go. And it was a man, and men and women grieve very differently. But even then, it's like with men, I mean, like Bill was much more of a sensitive type of person. It's like he was very masculine, but at the same time, he had some beautiful feminine traits that just made him into like the ideal husband. Seriously, what every woman dreams of having, because he had those sensitivities. And so I'm sure when Beth died, he probably grieved for her in a way that was different from a lot of men. So we all grieve very differently, is my point. And so my friends on Facebook have all been really encouraging and supportive. And the other thing is that it's been a good outlet for me, because it's given me a place where I have discovered about myself. I didn't know this before, but like, it really helps me to do these YouTube videos. It helps me to work through these things on YouTube, not necessarily in public, although YouTube is very public, but it's like, I'm here alone, so I'm alone talking, but I know that somebody will hear me, and it doesn't really matter if it's 2 people or 500. It doesn't matter. It just, being heard is really important to women especially. And so knowing that I'm going to be heard, but not having to, because I'm kind of not kind of, I'm very much an introvert. And so having to sit, like if I went to a grief support group, I'm not sure that would work very well for me. At first I looked for one and I tried to get into one, but the one nearby had started already, and so they weren't taking people for a while. But I'm kind of glad, because I really don't think that would have worked out well for me. I think that seriously, my very, very best therapy has been doing these YouTube videos, and I don't think that would work for everybody. Some people would feel like, oh, I don't want everybody in the world to know, and it's not that everybody in the world knows, but anybody in the world could know if they wanted to. And so, yeah, it'd be really hard for a lot of people. But for me, it's just the perfect balance of privacy and being heard. And so, yeah, so it's just right. So anyway, yeah, Facebook has been, I don't know what I would have done without Facebook. I would have been completely alone. My parents were here, but other than that, I would have been completely alone. Because, your friends who are here and stuff, and I have a few people who have been wonderful who are here, but they have their own lives. They can't be at your beck and call. Just because you're really depressed doesn't mean that they can just drop everything, especially if they live a ways away, which most of my friends don't live right here in Sweetwater, who are close even. They're usually like an hour or at least half an hour away. And so it's like your friends can't just drop everything. They've got a life, they've got a marriage that they've got to maintain, and they've got a house that they've got to maintain, and pets and a job and everything else. And so having Facebook means that you can talk 24 hours a day. And if I needed to, I could have gotten a hold of somebody on Facebook at any time. And that's been really helpful. It's also been a way, 20 or 30 years ago, if I had this happen and people asked their churches to pray for me, yeah, they would have told me that they asked their church to pray for me and stuff, or they might not have, because it's like you had to call people, and long distance was expensive. But this way with Facebook, it's like friends have told me, oh, I asked our small group, or I asked our church to pray for you. But then people from those groups have contacted me. That never would have happened if it wasn't for Facebook. That's just, you're out there where people can contact you, and that was wonderful. And I've made several friends of those people too, who contacted me because they didn't know me. One of my readers, who maybe I didn't even know personally, asked them to pray for me, and they contacted me, and we've become really good friends. There's just been a number of very close friends that I have now because of that. So Facebook has been instrumental. It's been huge. Okay, anyway, that's enough of that. I love you all. I'll talk to you later. Pray for each other, okay? Bye-bye.